Welcome everyone to the Mastermind Book Club. This is your channel. Thank you for being here, for listening in. We are excited because we have a very important book to go over tonight. What are 13 things that mentally strong people don't do?
Don't do.
What are they? Does anyone know? That's what we're here to find out, because this book that we have just gone over is immensely powerful. And I dare to say that in this book is the key to some of the obstacles that I've been facing for quite a while now. And I don't know about you, but I have brought some light into my life just by listening to this book. I know that the audio was a little rough to listen to, but in the end, the 13 things that mentally strong people don't do is really, really powerful. And it hit me where I needed to be hit. Are you guys ready? So this is what we'll do. We're going to go over each step of the 13. And if one of you wants to say something about any of these, welcome. You go ahead. So here we go. Number 1, don't waste time feeling sorry for yourself. Did anyone capture what that means? This is the number 1 thing.
I think it's really about not dwelling on past mishaps and past issues, and my relationship went sour. I didn't get the job. I got into a car wreck. All of these things and many more that you don't want to stay in a space of dwelling on them and falling down to a lower state of energy, because if you do, it's just really going to have a negative impact on you. And when you want to move forward, you're if you're not aware of that as you're trying or attempting to move forward, then the negative effect of those things will keep you from moving forward. So you'll basically be stuck, or you'll actually end up going backwards. And so that's really what it's talking about. Don't basically dwell on those things that are going to be negatively impacting on you. That's going to prevent you from making some positive moves and positive gains in your life.
Correct. Reggie, the other thing that I wanted to add to that is most of us will have a loss in our lives, and some people it will take a day or two to recuperate. Some people it might take 30 days, it might take a year, 2 years, they might never recover. The reality is we've got to learn to live with it, accept it. I mean, what's the safest way to get out of this world? There's no safe way. We're all gonna die one way or another.
And I just want to add, it's not like what happens to you is really how you relate to what happens.
Yes.
A lot of people, they suffer from just, I guess, remembrance. How can I put it? We dwell so much in the past that it plagues our future. So I agree with Reg what he says, but to me it's like a mindset. You can't dwell in the past or things that you've done in the past, because it's definitely going to stop you from succeeding, especially if it's coming off as a negative kind of force against you. The most you can do is kind of like leave the past in the past and focus on where you got to go and what you need to do.
Yeah, but like one big example that you just brought up, Charles, is sometimes we have an old relationship that we got out of, and sometimes we think, man, if I can only be with with that ex of mine, whether it was
Exactly.
male or female. And sometimes you think, man, if I could only be with her right now, maybe just go for a cup of coffee. Hey, you've got to move
It's
on.
over. Your life is the
Stop
way it's supposed to be.
going over that broken record.
Yes.
Let's move on to number 2. Don't give away your power.
I was gonna use real quick a quote on
Yes,
that.
go
Your
ahead.
past, your past, you might be done with your past, but your past is not done with you. That's a quote that I've like heard along the way. That's really powerful.
It's a quote that
And
needs some meditation, some thinking about, because most people don't understand what that quote means. And I mean that's just the reality with some of these words. Thank you, Reg, for sharing, and
Hmm.
Charles and Martha. Don't give away your power. Thing 2. What does this one mean? Anyone
I
remember?
I'll say basically. So giving away your power is when you say things like, you made me so mad. This traffic is really bothering me," or "this traffic is really, making me upset.
Yes.
Like the statements that are not you taking control, where you say statements and you don't realize you actually allowing those things to usurp your power. So when you say that, it's like you're basically saying, you know what, I'm not in the strength. I don't command the situation. The situation, the circumstances are the things that control this. And so with that, it's basically when you think that way, you basically become or render yourself powerless. So you have to be very careful. And a better statement will be, if you're stuck in traffic, like, I'm stuck in this traffic, I'm going to make the best of it. Or if someone, is nagging you, these types of things, as we know certain people can do, and as a certain person to be a certain way, you can be like, you know what, I am not going to allow you or this person to negatively impact me. I'm not going to allow you to bother me in a way that's going to take me down. I'm going to keep my energy high. Whatever statements that is you taking command and control, and statements hopefully that keeps you elevated and empowered in the way that you need to basically get through that situation without being dragged down and being impacted in an adverse way.
Beautiful, beautiful, Reggie. And I just wanted to add that very, very simple so that we can get
Yeah, I
going
was going to
because
say
we have.
also thinking
Oh,
for
okay. Go ahead,
yourself.
Reg. Go ahead, Charles. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say thinking for yourself. A lot of times people say, well, something or someone made me do it, but you had the power not
Yes.
to get caught up into that. So I was saying thinking for yourself, in addition to what Reg had already put out. A lot of times we give away our power just by this is what's the quote? Uh, Bad things happen when good men fail to do nothing. So in other words, if you have the power to do good but you don't, or you don't do anything, it's just like you could have but you didn't. So I also looked at it like that. Like you could,
Yes.
sometimes not doing anything is also a sign of a lack, not of giving away your power. Like just standing there and taking it is why I'm going.
Yeah, that's excellent, Charles. That makes 100. That's totally true.
Yes. And one of the big ways that we give away our power is by thinking about someone we dislike, and taking back that power is up to you. And these are very easy steps that I wrote down here. You depend on others to regulate your feelings, right? You let others define your self-worth. You become sensitive to criticism, but have you thought before you reacted? Have you evaluated and given feedback before you criticize? Don't shy away from change. Change is scary. Most people don't like change. Change is going to happen all our lives when we get into our 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and so on, right? If we look for change and when we find it, we run away, then guess what? We're going to be stuck at that same level for as long as we're afraid of that change, as long as we're afraid of it. So let's move on to number 3. Thank you guys, by the way. Number 3, don't shy away from change. Oh, we just started that.
The only constant is change. I'll start with that. I use that oftentimes at my work, because even as you say or think things are going to stay the same, they never do. So you're in the situation, whether at work, but I was going to start there, and there are things that are happening around you. There are management changes. They're messing around with compensation. They're changing the metrics that you get evaluated against, and all these types of things. And those things are never standing still. They're constantly changing. And when at one level at one time you think, oh, this is pretty good, like everything seems to be like in place and I'm good, like, all right, this is what I've been waiting for. But then as soon as you get comfortable, they pull a quick switcheroo on you. So if you embrace the fact that things will always change, then at least you're aware of that as being a condition that's going to necessarily happen every single time. And then the other part would then be to basically not just to be aware and to be ready for it, but then also to have a certain mindset around it, so that when those things do happen, they don't completely derail you and put you in a place where you're like, I didn't expect this, or you just fall apart because you expecting a bigger raise, or you were expecting your manager to stick around for a period of time, but then they switch that person out and put somebody above you that's more of like, not really on your vibrational level. So embracing change just means just be ready for those things that are going to happen. That necessarily mean that it's not always going to be the same. It's definitely going to be different.
Thank you,
Okay.
Charles. And
No, that's Reg. But I was going to
Reg.
say, Heraclitus, the philosopher, said that the only constant thing is change. And I understand what Reg is talking about, how you can be somewhere thinking it's one way and it constantly goes that way, but then it all abruptly changes on you.
Changes. That's right. It's
But
never
so
the
the only
same.
constant is change, according to Parathesis.
And between thing one, between thing two, three, and four, they're very similar. Four, don't focus on things you can't change, similar to the dislike part, right? But this is what I want to get at. If you're looking to be a leader, if you're looking to be a boss, if you're looking to have your own company, you're gonna run into enemies. You're going to run into people who don't like you. You're going to be run into people who are going to talk bad about whatever business you're doing. They're going to say the worst. Get used to it. Make it a reality. Accept that reality as of right now. So what? Let's move on. I have enemies. I have people who talk about me regularly, especially through some of the businesses that I'm involved in. Let's keep moving forward, and bigger things have happened. And the change, as what Reggie just said, is if you accept it, then you grow with it. I don't know how it happens, but magically things have started to sprout out. Don't focus on the things you can't change. Don't worry about pleasing everyone. Number 5, guys, ladies, don't worry about pleasing everyone. What does this one mean?
That's basically another form of giving up your power, because you can't constantly or ever make everybody else happy while necessarily taking care of yourself. So, there's a point where you have to be selfish, and even selfish is could be to a degree like, helping somebody else, because there could be some reward in that. Some people like helping people and they get a magnitude of elation from that. But at the same time, you could like constantly help someone, constantly help someone, constantly help someone, constantly please someone, and then you're neglecting yourself. And by neglecting yourself, then ultimately, what does that lead you to? It leads you to not taking care of the things that you need to take care of yourself, in terms of your own health, in terms of your own mindset, in terms of your own body, in terms of your own life, at every different level. So you got to be very careful as to not always please someone, because you can never fully ever please out anyone. And you will just basically drain yourself to the point where you could become even sick, because that's just taking a lot of energy from you, and your bandwidth will definitely get to a point where you have nothing left to even be able to fend for yourself. And then you'll find yourself in a situation that you don't want to be in.
And that's right. And Reg, and this is the thing, is that instead of focusing on pleasing everyone, why don't you focus on pleasing a few people who are closest to you, who are within your circle of friends or counsel or accountability and so on. Just focus on a few people, because if you win them over, then your job is done. Number 6, don't fear taking calculated risk. Oh my God. Charles, Martha, anything to comment?
Yeah, a lot of times it's sort of going back to the one about the change. A lot of times we stay in a situation because we're comfortable, and we don't take calculated risk because we're comfortable. Um, I'm a little bit guilty of this one because you know the results of what you're doing now, but if you venture out and you try something different, or try something that's changing your format or changing your lifestyle, you're taking a risk that it might not work or it might not come to the conclusions that you are looking for. And so the result is we want to stay where we are because it's comfortable.
Yes, that's right. We want to stay where we are because we're comfortable and we're afraid of change. And they overlap each other. Why people avoid taking risk? Emotion prevails over logic. We don't think about risks. We don't think about risks. Why not sleep on it and then make an action? Sometimes you don't have time to sleep on it. Sometimes you have to make a decision. And that's why I've become a CEO, is because I execute. I'm not going to be right all the time. I'm not going to be wrong all the time, but I expect to be right at least 80% of the time or better. Does that make sense, or is that crazy?
No, like the Nike
That's
commercial,
good.
just do it.
That's
Just do it.
right. That's right. That's right. That's right.
There's another quote real quick I was going to share. Like I heard it from Les Brown. He says some people are comfortable with the known hells as opposed to the unknown, what could be unknown heaven, something along those lines. Because like even a lot of us is to a point of another quote, and I don't quote it verbatim, but it's Henry David Thoreau. Most men are living lives of quiet desperation. So like you probably in a situation where you should take certain risks, but because of the disproportionate, situation whereby you're under life is on top of you, and a lot of us are under certain levels of struggle and not really able to manage it well. So this is where you get to a point where it's like the fear has left you in alert, so that you don't even have the ability because of where you are. It's like, even in making decisions about that, there's a whole concept of like the decision, a decision, I forget the term, but it has to do with being able to make certain decisions, whereby decision fatigue, where it came up in the other book, and making those decisions even is too much, because you're just trying to like get to the next hour. You're trying to like, just even survive to the next day. So forget like trying to make a risk that could be the effect that if I do this right, I can be set up for the next 10 years. Your decisions are focused on these very like short-term minimal survival type things. So, even to be able to get out of that, you have to raise up in your consciousness and raise up in your environment and all these things. Many of us don't, because we know the world, unfortunately, is disproportionately in a negative or in a state where they are like lacking the abundance and resources, even though there's plenty. And so forget about taking risks. You're not in the place to take a risk. You don't even know if you're going to live till today, tomorrow, next week, or whatever. So this is a situation that until we can come up out of that by raising our energy and our consciousness, this is where we're going to be stuck.
That's right. Thank you. And in one of my nonprofit groups, the motocross group that we're getting ready to do our events in August, what Reggie just said hits upon the nail. That we have the saying for this year is, I don't ride just to add days to my life. I ride to add life to my days. So what Reggie just said, that just brings that up. And then there's a problem with dwelling on the past, and this is what it is: you miss out on the present, and you can't prepare for the future if you're dwelling on the past. We went over this in one of the other ones that overlap, but the reality is, how many times have we been caught dwelling on the past and thinking, man, if I were only living with my mom, or man, if I only was free of debt, or if I was still a teenager. Grow up beyond that. Bigger and better things are coming, or maybe they're already there. But since you're focusing on the past, how are you going to be aware of what's presently happening? Number 8, don't repeat your mistakes. Anyone, don't repeat your mistakes.
Martha, you're on mute.
Who's that? Martha. Okay. Martha, unmute.
You're still on mute.
There we go. Let's see if she unmutes.
Um,
There we go. Martha?
yeah,
Hey.
I'm here. I'm
Hey,
here.
Martha.
How
Don't
are you
repeat your
guys?
mistakes.
I made a lot of mistakes in life, and I have a lot of experience, and I think you have to move forward. Everybody made mistakes. Life is not easy. And the only thing you can get better in life is to move and be a better person and stronger, and be become a better future for yourself. And we can stuck in the mistakes because we're not going anywhere. And the only way we can survive in this hard work and in this sometimes mess world we have is to move forward and do the best we can in life, and forget about the past, forget about everything. And sometimes we make mistakes when time and 2 times and 3 times, but that we learn from the mistakes and we make a stronger mind for us.
This is a thank you, Martha. What she just said, Martha, what you just said, it brings to mind a simple yes or no question. And is it, if you keep repeating your mistakes, are you ever going to reach your goals? No, right? It's rhetorical question. But another question is, if your friends and family get tired of you, do you think your complaints are going to go anywhere? No, right? No, they're not going to go anywhere. So how do you avoid repeating mistakes? Study the mistake first. Think about it. Think about it. And then 2 is, once you've thought about it, create a plan. What are the things that you need to do? What are the top 3 things, top 5 things, top 10 things? Whatever they are, get doing. Number 9, don't resent other people's success. Charles, Reg?
That's a tricky one, because I was even talking about a situation, but I won't bring up that exact situation. But the thing about resenting other people's success is that when you in that space of negative mindset and you know, saying that somebody else maybe didn't deserve something and they got something over you, or the world is so unkind, or certain things unkind, whatever it may be, if you dwell too much or focus too much in that space, or you actually have negative thoughts around it, you can actually negate or keep those things from coming to you. So that's something that a lot of people don't realize, because you're not putting out any positive energy. And what you're basically saying about a state of building, or a state of reward, or a state of elevation is like, that's a negative thing, because you're putting a spin on it, or a certain energy to it that's basically saying that thing is no good. And this is how I feel about it. I feel this way, it's no good. So, you know, it's not the condition or the state that should be, or it's not the thing for me. And so that's where you actually end up. So you have to be very careful with scorning what other people are doing, to the extent that they're having certain successes and such, because if you want those successes to come back to you, you have to be in a space and a thought and a conversation that has that invites it, that welcomes that thing to your life.
Yes, that's correct.
This is true. That's true.
Yes. And 3 questions come to mind that I wrote down here with the problem of resenting other people's success. Number 1, do you really want to stop focusing on your own path? Because when you resent others people's success, that's you're stopping focusing on your own path. And number 2 is, do you want to damage relationships? You're doing that by doing this. And I've done it at times, not lately, but when I was starting out, I was like, man, why is such a person so lucky? Why can't I be that? And number 3 is, is it crazy, but don't you think you're abandoning your own values by resenting other people's success? So let's move on. Number 10, don't give up after the first time. Jeez. Instant success. Don't give up after the first time. Everyone wants to get into crypto right now. They believe they're going to become a millionaire overnight. When cryptos have been around for at least 12 to 13 years, I believe.
About 12. Bitcoin came out like 12 years ago.
12 years ago. But they believe they can be an overnight success story. No, I don't think so. It doesn't work that way. You have to repeat many steps over and over and over and over and over again. Isn't that right, Reg, or am I wrong?
Yeah, generally speaking, that is 100% right. Many people will end up putting money in, and these types of things, they pull it out because it went the reverse way. They didn't give it enough time to even shift gears or go back the other way. And so a lot of people, because of that overnight success mentality, they're not willing to stick it out. And so you go in and then you come out as soon as you get a panic, as soon as the situation is not what you like, and then you pull out, and then the thing returns as most things, or a lot of things that go down will go back up, depending on what side of the trade you're on, and you basically miss. And like a lot of time with finance, you miss only when you sell. I mean, I guess if you're shorting, then you will miss if you actually, not say you lose only if you sell in the case of buying. In the case of selling, you lose only if you buy. So you just hold it, and definitely could go through the ups and downs, and before you know it, you could still make out, but not in an immediacy. It takes time a lot of times.
No, failure is part of the process. Failure is part of the journey. Failure is part of the expedition. Failure is part of our lives. In order to get ahead, we're going to fail. I failed many times. I have my daughter in the process of talking, walking, and being free of convulsions. And I failed many times, but I know that she's going to do it. Why? Because I see the little things that she's progressed in, right? Instead of focusing on the big picture, I focus on the good. I focus on the little things. Okay, today she's doing 20 seconds of being in the position of a pull-up with bent hands. I mean, that's your choice. What are you focusing on? Are you focusing that your boyfriend or girlfriend is bad when they're around you? Or are you focusing on that you're almost done with this relationship, so you need 2 more days and you're going to be done? You
No, I just
understand?
turned off the camera.
Sorry, who? Me?
No, that's Charles.
Oh,
He didn't.
I,
He didn't.
I
He didn't.
apologize. I was going to say, just in reference to what you were just saying, especially with the last one, don't be jealous of what other people do. You know, you can also, when I see someone else succeed or reach a certain level of success, what that is a benchmark that I can achieve it too. Especially, you know, by watching them, taking their examples. Somebody once said that if you watch a person's life or read that person's book, you can gain the same knowledge and the same amount of intelligence that they did to succeed that thing. And also, what you said, don't give up after the first time. I think of, who was it, Edison, who said, you know, what was it, 10,000 ways to make the light bulb?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
found
Edison.
Yes.
9,999 ways that didn't work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you know, I didn't fail. You know, I just had to keep going until I got the right combination. But
And
that's
he
all.
also had other accomplishments. Well, like lack of. He also had other experiments on almost inventions, like a ghost machine and something else, which his book talked about. So it's like, and then also real quick with failure, if you think about going to the gym, and there's this concept of lifting weights where you lift until failure, which is basically you keep lifting until you can't lift anymore. Like your arms are completely out of it if you're doing bench press or if you're doing like curls or whatever. And when you get to failure is when your muscles get to a point, like you rip the muscles. And then by doing that, when they come back, you know, and they build themselves, is how you get stronger. So they talk about lifting until failure is actually a point where if you're gonna make some monumental or some bigger gains in lifting, this is how you would do it, as opposed to just, you know, lifting a little bit and then calling it a day, and you really haven't done much to you know, putting your body through the level of taxing that it needs to
That's
achieve that.
me. That's
That's
me.
true.
I only put it through a little bit, and that's
I
But
reality.
say,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, guys, but for me, this is train your brain. You have to train your brain and
Yes.
all these things.
And that the reality is the truth. We have to train our brains. I tell my kids, you're gonna fail. You're gonna run into relationships, and you might run into many of them. You're not gonna be successful in your first try. You're not gonna fall in love in your first try. It might seem like you are, but it will take time to get used to figuring out what's right and wrong. So get used to failure. And when I was a baseball coach, I did the same thing. My kids were there, and I told them, you might win, you might not win, but the best thing is that you're moving forward and that you're learning something good about this. And that's it. Number 11, don't fear alone time. Geez, this is tough for many of us. For me, it's tough for us.
That's big in
Alone
this
time.
environment. This is
Alone
huge
time.
in the current environment we're in, because I always tell people, I think too many of us don't take time for self. Like we're always wanting to be around people. We always want the TV on. We always want the music on. You have people who, reality is like the noise of cities is unnatural. And so if you think back to the beginning of time, there were no alarms, there were no car horns honking, there were no sirens, there were none of these things. There weren't like a bunch of just crazy, all types of noise that you hear in those types of dwellings. But yet some people consumed by that and they want to be in it. And they to be in a space where they're by themselves, especially like you say to someone meditate. They say meditation. I haven't confirmed this, but they say, like, for example, alone in meditation, it takes like a couple hundred muscles. So you'll notice a lot of people when they talk about that, they're like, I can't. My mind is all over the place. My leg is starting to hurt. My back is hurting. Like there's all of these things because they're not used to being on their own, just having time with themselves to really contemplate, to be introspective, to really look into the situation, to ask questions to themselves and to the quote unquote universe of God. They're not doing that. So we ultimately never learn out about who we are. And we only know ourselves through what society has told us, through what we've learned, through different things like what our parents have told us and so on and so forth. But if you were to take some time to yourself, you can definitely get to a space where, especially if you do things like meditate, when you do things like just be quiet and sit alone in a room, turn the lights out, whatever, and listen to your own heart and listen to your own breath. This is a very peaceful and spiritual place that can help you to really achieve a certain level of mastery of self and be able to get yourself to advance to where things that you may be currently dealing with in the lifestyle that you're living, you could maybe get you to a higher state of advancement beyond that just by putting those things into practice. So that's what I'll state to that.
That's right. That's right. Very powerful what you just said, Reg. And I'm not going to add to that because what you just said is very, very important. Most people don't figure out how to take time to be alone. And as I run, I've been distracting myself listening to audios and audios and audios, which is a good thing. But at times, if you just shut it off and listen to your brain, oh my God, I've come up with great ideas as I run, as I take time to meditate, as I take time to be on my own. It's very powerful. So thank you, Reg, for that. Number 12, 12, 12. Thing 12. Don't feel like the world owes you anything. Man, who's felt that way? Who's felt that way?
Mentally strong people.
Right? Mentally strong.
True.
Mentally strong people do not feel that the world owes them anything.
Yes.
Don't feel that the world owes you anything. Just do what you're going to do. Right? Do it because you love it, because you have a passion for it, because your heart and your mind are focused on achieving the goal. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I mean, look at Jack Ma. He was denied from starting his Alibaba, and look where it is now. I mean, just listening to the way that he was treated when he was starting, it was like, you're ridiculous. Why would you think this would become successful? And look at Alibaba now. Jeez.
And he got rejected from a whole bunch of jobs along the way. Like a whole bunch, like, they came to the country. It was like McDonald's and everybody got the job except him. It was KFC. Everybody, he tried to apply as a teacher a bunch of times. He got rejected. The guy knows a lot of rejection.
These are the signs that we have to be aware, or some of them. These are just some examples that I have here. I'm not following that law because it's stupid. I'm more valuable than others. There's always been something really special about me. Oh, how cute. That's a reality. We all think about that. But there are better ways to say that so that we don't think that the world owes us anything. Number 13. Don't expect immediate results. Do not expect immediate results. Why? Why not expect immediate results?
I think like anything, if you think about even just the state of how things come into this world, as far as birthing of different things, right? If you talk about a plant, if you talk about the gestation period of an animal, if you think about any of these types of things, they all have a certain time frame that we have quantified in the way that we quantify time in a way of days, months, years, or whatever. Let's say like in the case of birthing a child is typically 40 weeks, right? So that's the result. The result is you do, and then the result of the child being manifested or being brought to full life is about 40 weeks. There are a lot of these things in life go through these cycles. So if we understand that, we will go along with the cycle, and we won't actually jeopardize that, because we actually don't even allow those things to take form, because we actually do a lot of things that don't allow those things to manifest because of our thoughts and our actions and such. So if you understand when results are supposed to happen, you just go with the flow. And all you really need to do is the work, whatever that work is. If it's getting up early, if it's journaling, if it's doing the exercise, if it's taking your alfalfa sprouts and your enemas and your whatever, like all of these things, just do it. That's part of the work. And then On the other side, X amount of weeks is better health. On the other side is better lifestyle. And the other side is a better relationship with your kids and with, with your colleagues, just because you've put in the time. Like, this is part of that, us doing these readings. We don't know when we're going to get the manifestations of all of what comes out of this. Is kind of like you said, a light bulb goes off, but it ultimately is a feeling that, that happens. But it's something you just have to go with the process of it and just say, you know what, I'm going to do the work and I'm going to let it take its course. And then eventually, because I am doing the work, I'm going to see the manifestations or the fruits of that labor or the fruits of that work. So that's really a better mindset. And so just not really being in the space of worrying about what's going to happen and when, but more knowing it's going to happen. And all you have to do is keep doing what you're doing.
That's right. That's right, Reg. And one of the big things is that I can think about as you're saying that is money. Sometimes we want to buy things because we feel we deserve it. Well, can you imagine if you held off for a month, for 2 months, for a year? All of a sudden, that thing that you felt you deserve becomes nothing compared to the bigger picture. Immediate results, if we can just hold back a bit longer instead of just the impulse of, I can purchase this, I deserve it, I have a little bit extra money. Well, stop settling for less. Did you know that you are settling for less? Most people don't know that. I didn't know that. You're settling for less. Sometimes you just got to stop purchasing. Purchasing is our biggest impulse to purchase. It could be a toy. It could be a big toy for men. For women, it could be more clothing or a restaurant and so on.
Or shoes.
Shoes, whatever it may be. There's a big problem right now with Samsung and Apple. I don't know if you're aware of this, but it just came out just a few days ago. What's the big problem? Sales are decreasing. What did they do? They stopped the new phones that were going to come out. They said they're not going to release phones right now. But how did they word it? Our top of the line phones that we cater to the wealthier people, we are postponing putting them out. But the reality is that there are a lot of lower end companies coming out with a third or fourth of the cost of the same quality phones, only that they're better in most of the things that these phones are. Samsung was expecting immediate results in reference to getting their phones. Now they have a loss on postponing these phones because they know if they put it out, these newer companies that are coming out are going to take over them. I'm in a newer company. I bought a Xiaomi Note 10, and I'm happy with the phone. I'm really happy with the phone. And it only cost me $379 compared to what people pay right now, $1,400 for a new phone. No. Look around. There are a lot of new companies coming out. Don't expect immediate results, meaning you're not always going to get what you want instantly. It might take for you to start saving. When I was ready to buy a phone, I was like, I'm not going to buy a Samsung. I'm not going to spend it. I do have the money, but I took my time and then I found the Xiaomi Note 11 or something, Note 10. And it's similar to the phones that are out there right now. That's right. Does this make sense, or is this
Makes
mentally
sense.
strong
It makes
people
sense.
things that you shouldn't do going to drive you crazy? But this is the reality. Focus on one of these. You don't have to focus on all 13. One at a time, or one in your life. That makes all the difference. That's what we've done in this book club, is don't expect to learn everything in every book. Just focus on one thing. And that one thing will lead you to the path that you're looking for. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you're wrong. But the reality is being wrong is part of the process. And you get the better answers. Anybody have any other questions before we sign off? Questions?
That's pretty good.
Pretty good, right?
Mm-hmm.
I thought that this book was very powerful. And the reality is we need to go over a book like this regularly. There are 13 things here that we need to learn, and that's just part of the process. There are 100 plus things we need to learn, right?
I love the way the books build up on top of each other.
Right? That's
A
they're
common
not
theme.
planned. They're not planned,
Yeah,
Charles.
but each one is kind of like enhancing like an overall picture that we're eventually going to come to, I believe. So
Wait till you
I'm
get to
looking
the
forward
next
to it.
one. It's gonna hit on thing number 12, I believe, is what we just saw. And it's a very short book, but it's very powerful. I suggest you listen to it at least twice because it's very short.
I'm gonna
This
sign
is the
off,
master.
everybody.
Whoops.
Have a great
Hold.
night.
Yes.
All right, Charles.
Appreciate y'all.
This
Have
is
a
the
blessed night.
Mastermind Book Club. Yeah, everyone. Have a great evening. Thank you. And until next week,
Thank you.
when we'll have a review of another book. Take care.